Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pwnery's Week in Review, episode 25, I think? I think we're up to episode 25, but you probably noticed that this is a little different this week. It's not actually live, and the reason it's not live this week is actually because most of you are probably out with family, or shopping, or doing something. Because today is also known as Small Business Saturday. So, you're with family, you're doing your holiday shopping, go support your small businesses, the little guys. If you are in the firearms community, for instance, there are a lot of small shops out there. Maybe you're having a hard time finding reloading dies of a specific caliber or specific ammunition or powders or primers or what have you, but that is an increasing problem these days since we're into year 2 of Rona shortages, I guess, or as I'd like to say, because COVID. Anyway, I don't have a panel today because, well, it's the holidays and some people are having to work, some people are having to travel and fix their new real estate and things. And I've got my own comings and goings. So what I thought I would do today is try a pre-recorded um, This Week in Review because we covered a lot on Thursday's show. And the reason that I wanted to try this was because I always seem to get the intros and outros timing wrong. But that'll get better with time, I suspect. So Personal's Week in Review is only between Thanksgiving until today, Saturday. So what I thought I would do is just kind of get you caught up since then. We had a really good show Thursday for a Thanksgiving special. I had a fuller panel than I had expected, and I think it went pretty well. Generally when I do these, I have a concern of am I going to be able to get the show to flow from beginning to end. I get really weird about dead air, and that's probably why I talk a lot in the live shows. I don't want to put that pressure on some of the panelists. Now, I'm confident in like Tony being able to do his thing because he does the early watch and so does Jimmy. But my other panelists, they're kind of new to this and they're getting better at it. And I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job. They are. It's just I'm trying to prevent dead air from happening. So as such, I just keep going. And if you can hear that in the background, it's about that time of day. And I have learned to just live with it. But every day just before I go on air or just after or during, or actually, you know what? They don't need a damn excuse, do they? It's a fox hunt everywhere outside of my studio here. So anyway, Thanksgiving went fairly well in my house, in Pwnery's house. A bit peaceful, a bit quiet. Um, Started off with the show, obviously, and followed into making turkey like everyone else usually does, right? So, two things had happened that day. One was, first of all, I teetotaled the whole holiday, which is weird because usually when I have family over, and most of you can relate to this, is you need a drink. But no, I teetotaled all of Thanksgiving, and I got a lot of recording done. If you follow my other playlists, you see in the Penny Arcades, I did a 5-episode series of this game called Wife Quest, and it was surprisingly fun. For a game that was only $6, it was great. And I didn't beat it on camera or on stream because if you do an LP of a game and you take them from beginning to the very end, that doesn't motivate people to go out and get it, does it? So you have to leave something at the end for people to go find themselves. So what I did in that was I didn't find any of the secrets, or I didn't backtrack to go get any of the things that you can't get as you run through it the first time. The way that game is structured is you actually do backtrack to pick up things that you missed the first time around. But, I just did that, and it was fun. The editing part is both fun and tedious at the same time, trying to interject little bits and pieces for screenshots and whatnot. But at the end, the final product after I upload it to YouTube is pretty good. So if you watch the Wife Quest series that I did, if you see a lot of edits where there was a lot of inset pictures and comments and like little snapshots of my dog every time they bark or whatever, I had a lot of fun doing it. It's just the editing took 10 times longer than the actual recording of the video. So that was going on as I was going back and forth between the kitchen throughout the day. And I guess I'll do all the Thanksgiving stuff first. So when the turkey was ready to come out, first of all, my mother decided to cook the bird this year, and I was not going to get in her way because our kitchen is not very big, and she and I have the same pet peeve. If there's someone in the kitchen doing something, stay the hell out of the kitchen because you're just going to get in each other's way. So I would go in every time she would finish messing with turkey stuff, and I would start doing all the side dishes and whatnot. Well, anyway, around dinner time, I think it was about 6:30 or 7 o'clock or so, I hear this noise. So I go out and investigate, and she is screaming and just hopping mad. I'm like, what's the matter? And she starts going off about, I ruined Thanksgiving. And I'm like, how did you ruin it? I'm seeing everything I normally see when she does the bird. She takes it out, she carves it before she calls anyone out to eat. And, she was just doing that. I saw a carved up bird, right? And I'm like, what's the problem? Everything looks fine. And she was like, I put the bird in the pot or in the pan upside down so the breast didn't get golden brown. And I'm so mad because I think I ruined it. And I just went over and I picked off a piece that she was carving off and I stuck it in my mouth. And I'm like, no, it's still pretty good. So I was trying to calm her down because she has these moments where when she starts getting emotional, whether it's anger, frustration, whatever, it's like an avalanche. So she just doesn't stop. And then it turns into anxiety, and then it doesn't stop. And she has to pop a pill. I don't know what it is, but it sort of settles her down. I think it's Xanax, honestly. But anyway, the turkey was fine. And I did talk to my co-host, Tony, about it. And he sort of laughed and just told me, he's like, hell, I do that every year. I'm like, why is that? And he says, because the breast turns out juicier that way if it's upside down and all the juices settle to the breast. And I thought, hey, that's a pretty good idea. I mean, we don't carve the turkey at the table anyway. So by the time it's time to eat, all the carved pieces are just waiting for you, which is great because, ain't got no time for that. We got to eat, right? It's like you got to pick off of 40 different plates of side dishes because I always overdo it. Grab your biscuits, grab your cranberries, grab your turkey. Pour gravy on everything. Gravy on Thanksgiving in my house is like a gallon-sized bucket. You just have to dump it on everything. Turkey gravy is the greatest thing ever. It's a lubricant to push all the food down as you obviously gorge yourselves and put twice your capacity into you. It's not the tryptophan that puts you to sleep. It's the fact that you bloated out like a whale that's about to burst. And your body has to put you down so it can process what you got in you before you just spew like a food fountain everywhere. But anyway, that was going on. I'll touch a little bit on my past from October. I told you all that a lot of people, or that October was probably the worst month in Pwnery's life. So it was. I'm not the depressive type, and my specialty background in education was psychology, specifically psychology of women, and couples therapy. Like that's what I was trying to do. And it'd been a couple of years since I decided to take on a female companion. And so I had ended up going after a childhood conquest, basically, because it was a question that I just needed an answer to. Because there's a reason why you keep running into people your whole life, right? It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, you don't know. But in my case, it was 30 years in the making, and I just needed answers. So I figured I'm going to do this to its conclusion, and by the end of this, I'll either look back at this and go, wow, that was a waste of time, or I'll look back at it with that person and be like, wow, that was totally worth it. Well, it turns out that it was just a gigantic waste of time. And the biggest takeaway from it is, from a psychology and sociology standpoint, is be very aware, be cognizant of perception versus reality. And in my case, the perception was completely not reality. Like, I had this vision of this person my whole life being a certain way. And the fact of the matter is they were the complete opposite. Like, I could not have been. I'm usually a very good judge of character, but in this case, it's because you want that thing, that person. You sort of ignore that voice in your head screaming, "She's no good for you," you know. So yeah, the reality is she was completely a waste of time. But in the process, and it's like a Hallmark made-for-TV movie, right? Coping with the uh, pursuit and loss, I guess, of that, it sort of um, it led me to somebody else, and it's hard to explain. I've never been happier in my whole life. I guess that's a good way to put it, right? And this new person is it's hard to I'm having a hard time trying to explain this without just coming out with it, but this new female companion of mine, uh, we already have a history too, sort of offhanded, and it's really strange that I walked away from a plane crash and just boarded a jet. I guess that's the best way I can say it, and it's exciting and terrifying at the same time because the pace that this has picked up from is scary. It's like a roller coaster, and this whole process before was, the click, 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 click as you go up the hill, and all of a sudden it's like you hear the locks unlock and whoosh, you're gone from 0 to 100 in literally a second. And that's kind of what it feels like. Needless to say, though, um, she has her issues too, but her issues are medical. So I've got this new like stressor in my life trying to hold that down and take care of that and be on top of that to, help them, which I feel powerless to do so, but I mean, I've got a lot of connections in the medical field, and unfortunately all the people I did my residency with are no longer there. But I made new connections with other people because my mentor, for instance, he has prostate cancer, and he I took him to a couple of his appointments, and you know I've made myself known at the cancer center. So like I met a lot of people at say MD Anderson Hospital, and from them I made new connections with other people. So this new girl here, uh, I've already put her in front of several doctors. So it's like things are being done, and hopefully she can overcome this condition she has that she's been fighting for almost 4 years now. We'll see. We'll see. But, she gets better first. Pwnery gets happy later. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Um, the problem is, though, is she went to visit family for Thanksgiving. And she left on Tuesday, and she said she would be home by Friday. Well, Wednesday rolls around. No, sorry, Tuesday rolls around. She drives all the way up there. And, it's the holidays. Go spend time with your family, right? Well, she didn't do that. She went up there, and all she did was blow up my phone like the whole day. Now, personally, I'm flattered. I think it's fantastic. But I had to like shoo her off. I'm like, listen, you drove 6 hours to go be with family. Go be with family. Like, I'll see you Friday. It's cool. Go do family things. Because, she and I aren't like an item really yet. Like, go do your family things. That's what this time of year is for. That's what you drove 6 hours for. So she did. And then Wednesday, it was almost as if like she was waiting for a certain time of day before she starts blowing up my phone. Like, I don't want to do this family thing anymore. Let's talk. But that sort of happened, right? The only problem is when she blew up my phone, it was like, oh my God, my little brother that I came to visit up here with my dad has Rona. I have to leave because she has two daughters. So she was like, I have to get them out of here, so we're heading home early. Unfortunate. The day before Thanksgiving, you have to leave family to go to get away from somebody that has Rona. She got home pretty late Wednesday. Well, pretty late in terms of time of day, but she got home around like 9:30ish. Whole time, she's terrified. This poor girl, if something happens to her, sniffles or whatever, instantly goes to DEFCON 5. People, when they do that, if you're like a support system for these people, you turn around and you're like, look, I know a lot of people who've caught the cold and the flu recently because here in Southeast Texas, we've had these like pendulum sweeps between warm weather and cold weather. It's that like schizophrenic time of year where cold fronts pass through every once in a while in these gaps of like 10 days to 12 days, and then it warms back up to an Indian summer basically. And then the next cold front blows through and it's, highs in the 40s. Right now outside it's like 50 degrees, which I know if you guys live in the north, that's shorts weather for you. But when you're used to being in 100-degree weather, and in the last couple of months like high 80s, waking up to 50 something, you don't fully bundle up yet because it hasn't sunk in on the first day. So a lot of people get sick, this time of year. So I told her, I'm like, maybe that's all it is. Well, she gets really mad when people do that because she's like, why is everyone discounting everything I say when I feel like I've got this thing? And so I sat her down and I'm like, listen, this isn't trying to say that nobody believes you. What people are trying to do is give you optimism because the condition she actually has is potentially fatal. And she's sort of immunocompromised because of it. So she's really scared of getting sick. And I thought, just when I tell you these things, it's because I want to give you the hope that maybe it's not as bad as you think. Because if she's the type of person where if she's at DEFCON 5, dwelling on the dread makes her worse. And it's like, I gave her this saying that I'm just going to grab you by the cheeks and turn your head forward, and that's the only direction I need you to look in. Because you're going to outpace the darkness behind you, being sick or potentially dying. I was like, you're going to outpace that facing forward and focusing on recovery every day, and that shadow in the background is going to get further and further away. So if the moment does come where you can take a breather and look behind you, it won't even be there anymore. And you'll have won. And I think that's where she and I grew in the first place, because like that set the tone of how she talks to me ever since. In a good way, in a very good way. Anyway, that was my personal week in review just between Thanksgiving to today. Like, I don't want to bore you to death with it, with just that. But I thought it was very important to talk about because, I don't heal bodies. And if I had finished my residency and worked towards my MD, I would just tell people, listen, I don't heal bodies. I heal souls. I heal brain. I heal people's brains or their personality or their soul or however existentially you want to explain it. That's what I fix. I fix the person, not the body. And it's a challenge. It really is, because at the end of the day, right, you feel good because you helped somebody else, but you always have to shelve your issues. And truth be told, I've got one too. And And it's stupid because I've been negligent about taking care of it. So I'll talk about that probably in a week. I don't want to bore you guys to death because it's already been 20 minutes. It's a medical thing. It's not a big deal. It's just I had ignored it so long it's going to take longer to get over it now. And it happens after I come off a cold every year or a flu or whatever. When the year I catch it, this comes back with it. It sucks. So anyway, um, let's see, what else do I got? For those of you who pay attention to the regular parts of the show, I have purchased a Russian M44 carbine from Jimmy James from the early watch, and it's sort of annoying because he brought it to FedEx, I think on the 23rd? Yeah, he brought it on the 23rd, and it hasn't left where he is yet. And today's the 27th. Now I get it. Wednesday was probably a half day. Thursday was off. Friday, Black Friday, I'm not sure. At my shop, we had pickups, so I don't know if they were transporting it. But I mean, Saturday today, right? Like, you would think that at least it would start moving, but it hasn't. So, like, I'm still waiting for that. Let's see, what else? I had sent a payment in, I think, Monday for a magazine. A 10-shot double-stack magazine, which doesn't sound like much by today's standards, but it goes to a pistol from 1907. So some of you should already know what that means. If you keep up with this old Gats, I sort of adopted Mark Novak's principle or mantra of get out there, get some tools, and start screwing up. And I'm happy to say that so far in those This Old Gat episodes, I don't feel like I've actually screwed anything up yet. However, you're going to end up, quote, screwing up enough times where people will see your screw-ups, your work. And then they will come and ask you, hey, would you mind taking a look at this? And then you get to screw theirs up. And they'll even pay you to do it. So, a couple weeks back, you probably saw it, I did back-to-back This Old Gat pistol episodes. One was, they're technically not really milsurps, but the Ortke's pistol was an optional pistol for German officers to buy, so it did see some service. But the Davis Warner Infallible, not so much. If I had said that I'd screwed something up in those two videos, it would probably be that I listened to the customer's wishes. So for the Ortke's, that's usually a blued pistol. But by the time I had been done conserving it and boiling it and carding it, there was really no finish left on it. And so the buyer told me, polish it out. And I warned him towards it. I said, well, first of all, it kind of ruins its authenticity. But second of all, it's a 106-year-old gun or something at the time. I think it was. No, that one's, that's almost that's a 100-year-old gun. His was a 1921 production. And I said, there's going to be pits in there. It's not going to be like buying a brand new stainless Walther PPK. Like, it's going to have little bumps and things on it. But I said, I'll do my best. And he said, yeah, go ahead. So I did it. And honestly, it turned out pretty good, considering what I had to work with. So I did that one, gave it back to him. He was happy as a clam. And then I had the Infallible, which he also brought me. And I knew that one wasn't going to clean up very well. The whole frame is modeled. It almost looked like it was forged with a ball peen hammer. I know it's not, and I know it wasn't finely machined. Maybe it was. Maybe the rust on it actually did mess the surface up. But I got it close to a picture I had seen of another one, and I was really hoping to get it that smooth, dolphin smooth, but it didn't turn out that way. And then it had two problems. One, the striker spring was very weak when you pulled the trigger, and I took it apart and I found out that the striker spring was broken in three pieces, or two pieces, or two places. It was in three pieces. This is a spring that's like 3 inches long. So I thought, well, that's going to be fun to find. And then the magazine kept popping out when you pull the trigger, and I thought, maybe the mag return or mag release spring, since it's not really a heel release, it's at the front of the grip, like Savage. But it sticks way further out. So when you grip that thing, your pinky's already hanging off, your ring finger's squeezing on the mag release. When you pull the trigger, all your fingers sort of squeeze the grip together, and the mag falls out. Design flaw. Came to find out that was one of the biggest complaints about the Infallible. So I didn't feel so bad anymore. Once I got it apart and boiled and cleaned and everything, and I was working that mag release, the spring on it was actually quite good. So anyway, long story short, ended up going to my neighbor who's got a lathe, and he machined me two little tiny aluminum couplers where the pins that stuck out as the coupler was just barely under the inner diameter of the spring. And I took the three sections of broken spring and put the two couplers on, in between the sections. And wouldn't you know it, that fixed it. Temporarily, because obviously if the corrosion broke the spring in the first place, if there was any other pieces of corrosion, it breaks somewhere else. But the guy told me he was just going to build a presentation box and stick it in, on a shelf anyway. He's never going to shoot it. It's just I don't like leaving a gun in my care disabled. If I can fix it, I'm going to make it work. I don't know for how long, but I'll make it work. I could have bought a spring for it, but I would have to find one the right diameter with the right amount of tension, cut it down, get it in there. And I was really trying to get it back to him before the holidays because he was getting a bit antsy. Because he was a new guy, new customer. I got it back to him. He was super happy. He was actually loving the two-tone thing that I did with it. And he goes, "So what do I owe you?" Now, I don't generally know what my worth is. Because for me, I really enjoyed doing the work. But the thing was, I didn't quite understand how much to value my work, I guess. And I told him, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I said, let me think about it for a while. I was like, I'm trying to figure myself out for the kind of work I do. And he says, well, I've got a couple other things if you don't mind looking at them. I said, all right. So he brought me a 1907 Savage pistol. It's a later model where the slide serrations are tighter and there's more of them, which sort of, I was like, oh, I really want the early version, but I saw that one. And he hands it to me. It has a holster too. I was like, this is really nice. And he goes, yeah? I said, yeah, I've been wanting one of these for a long time. My local's got two for sale, but they're not in this good a shape. And he was like, tell you what, why don't you just keep that one? I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's the least I can do. You can have it. So he writes me up like a bill of sale, basically saying that he handed it over to me. So I own a 1907 Savage pistol. First thing I noticed, though, is when I flipped it over, there's no magazine. So then I started looking for the 10 Shots Quick magazine. And they're unicorn teeth. They're not out there. One guy on Gunbroker had one for $100. I was not going to pay $100. On the last day of that auction, Scott, the co-host here for the Week in Review, we have this guns and ammo deals section down in the text channels. Basically, we just share auction links. And he sends me an auction for something completely different. And I scrolled down to the bottom because I'm not an idiot buyer on Amazon and just look at the headline and hit add to cart. I read the whole listing, which is what those idiots should be doing. Half the returns I get back at my shop are because they don't read the whole listing. So I did. I read the whole listing of the thing he sent me. And for those of you on gun broker, you know, at the very bottom it says other items sold by this seller. And right in the middle of that little carousel, plain as day, with Sharpie marker on it saying 32 ACP, 10 shot Savage magazine, 1907 model, $50. I was like, nope, click mine. So hopefully, my check got to him Wednesday, hopefully. And hopefully today there might be a Savage magazine in my mailbox. If not, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. According to FedEx, my M44 should be here Monday, even though FedEx tracking has nothing. All it had was estimated delivery Monday. Fine, whatever. So I could have a potential good day. I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out eventually. I think that's my week in review. I think that's all the personals. I was trying to purchase a Dutch nil Marechaussee, Dutch East Indies, police carbine, basically. And when I was talking to the new female, I got so engrossed in our conversation that I forgot the end of the auction, and I lost. The guy put in one bid over mine, and I said, "Oh, I'll just cork him at the very end for $5 extra." Well, I didn't catch it in time, so I didn't win the nil. I was so mad. And then last night, there was a Dutch I got all of that wrong. Turkish Forest Service. Yeah, Turkish Forest Service. Damn it, I can't say it. Forestry Service. Thank you. Turkish Forestry Service carbine. But it's a Lebel. No, sorry, it was a Berthier 0715. Redone in 1948. The cool thing about that gun is from the receiver back, it looks like a Berthier. From the Knox form forward, all the way to the end of the barrel, it looks like a Gewehr 91 carbine. Gorgeous. I missed on that one too because I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking about the show prep for today's show, and I sort of forgot. So I didn't win that one either. So anyway, currently I'm now looking at other things to buy, and I may or may not do it. I'm not sure yet. Right now I'm looking at another Turkish forestry carbine, which is actually in a whole lot better shape. But I still got 2 days to wait on that. Been eyeballing a Canadian Ross rifle, but it's sort of more than I want to spend. There's another... Oh yeah, there's an 0715 Berthier long rifle that's missing its bolt, and I don't care, because if you guys may not have seen it, but I already bought one that's sort of cut, so I have a bolt. I can always just stick it in the other rifle. I may do that, but that's got 2 days to go. And let's see, what else was I looking at? Oh, Winchester 1887 lever action shotgun, like Terminator 2, in 10 gauge. That one is just parts. I'm going to have to find a stock, trigger system, all the springs, all the screws. The loading block and the barrel and receiver and the tang and the actuating arm is all there. So, I don't know. I'm debating on that one. I would like to have it, but I really don't need it. If I had that 10 gauge, I'd put a stock on it, like a full stock, because that's a handful to shoot. But we'll see. Alright, so that's what I'm looking at now, supposedly. Yeah. So yeah, being that I'm by myself today, on purpose, by design, I only have 4 stories for you today. And we'll go ahead and get started, because I've already wasted 34 minutes of your time. So if you've made it this far, congratulations and thank you. So the first story I've got for you today is we've been dealing with the coronavirus since essentially December of 2018. Now, it's called COVID-19, but history indicates that this actually started in December of 18. That's when the Wuhan thing was sort of, they kept a lid on it, but that's sort of where it started and the time that it started. And we're what, 4 days away from it being technically its third year, right? It will be its third year. So, what did we get in that time? We had lockdowns, we had a global economy put in the toilet, we had governments all over the world abusing emergency action powers, lockdowns and restrictions and mask mandates and all this other stuff, right? We had all that. In our country specifically, you know, we had stimulus payments that weren't stimulus payments. Like everybody, like 220 million people got a couple of them, but then other people with like children or rent assistance and all that, they still are on the dole. They're still getting the dole where the rest of us didn't. I've had to go to work every single day since the Rona started. I've never got the Rona. I did catch a cold earlier, like last year, but it was just a cold because I got over it in like 2 days. Um, but they don't stimmy us, like you're punishing me because I bought my house in cash and you're giving rent assistance to other people. Now I get it. If you don't need it, why take it? I get that. But they had given so much to so many people that a lot of people became complacent with the dole and they didn't go back to work. They're like, the government will pay for it. And it's like they built you the cage that you're walking yourself into with this concept of universal basic income. Oh, sure, it sounds great. It sounds great on its surface if you're receiving it. But if you're affluent and very wealthy, you're paying for all this. Somebody's got to pay for it. Anyway, because of all the dole payments and because of the people not going back to work for whatever reason, or some people being let go because of vaccine mandates and mask mandates and just mandates in general, uh, supply chain's been screwed, logistics has been screwed, the trucking industry's been screwed. I have a friend who he's a heavy diesel mechanic. He works on 18-wheelers. And he showed me this picture one day. He stood on the roof of his garage. And he goes, take a look at this. And he showed me this picture. And I swear it looked like a used 18-wheeler lot. Like where you would go and buy one. And I said, I didn't know you were selling these trucks. I thought you were just fixing them. And he goes, I am. These are all sitting in my parking lot waiting for parts. And I was like, what? What parts are you waiting for? I heard there was a microchip shortage, but I mean, some of those trucks are pre-computer. And he told me that apparently 18-wheeler U-joints, like giant U-joints, are in short supply. It took him it took him 18 months to get the U-joints and a custom drive shaft made to fix one truck. And he said he had 94 trucks in his parking lot waiting for parts. Most of them were drive shafts and U-joints, strangely enough. So, we've got this supply problem. And inflation has gone crazy. I love telling this story, but the day before the elections, the 2019 election, right, for the presidency, yeah? The day before that, or 2020 election, sorry, I had to fill the tank in my Thunderbird, which uses premium 93 because it's a high compression engine. It's from a Jag, basically. I paid $19, I think it was. Not even 19. I think it was like 1680 or 1690 or something like that, now that I think about it, to fill my tank with 93 octane. Tank wasn't completely empty when I started, but you get the point. I filled the tank the other day. It was $64. That's ridiculous. That's asinine. This happened once before in our history recently. In the middle 2000s, the oil speculation boom or whatever. Oil Oil prices per barrel hit 150. We were paying the gas prices we are paying right now back then. Now you think of cost of living increases and the value of the dollar has gotten weaker since then, and oil is only $80 a barrel, and yet we're still paying the same per gallon. That's ridiculous. We talked about this on Thursday's show, where the president had decided to unleash 50 million barrels of the wrong type of crude oil from the strategic reserves. 50 million barrels in a country that uses 18,190,000 barrels per day. He gave us 2 days and 4 hours worth of oil, which is harder to convert into gasoline than, I think it's called light sweet crude. He did sour crude. The biggest thing I've heard about sour crude is it's used for vulcanization of tires and other things. Whatever. Point is, everything is kind of screwed up right now. People have learned to cope with it. Travel, restrictions, going to work if you do go to work, going grocery shopping, having to wear a face diaper all the time. We have coped with it. We don't like it, but we do it in the name of complacency for the greater good. Because the quicker we can eradicate this thing that has only killed 1/10 of 1/100th of 1% of the world population, and yet we've convinced that this is the plague of the earth. We've gotten used to it, right? We've figured out how to cope with it. Until yesterday. Like, all of a sudden, the world had decided, oh, if you can cope with that, then we're going to have to hit you with this. And then we're going to lock you down even harder. And then you're going to definitely be stuck on the government teat. Meet the Omicron. This is the new variant of bullshit, essentially. This thing, I believe, is vaccine resistant, highly contagious and infectious, and it's more effective and lethal. Sound like scaremongering to you? Kind of sounds like that to me. Anyway, yeah, we got this new Omicron variant, and I think, yeah, driving higher cases of sickness and death in Europe and parts of the United States already. Or no, that was after Delta. And this one, I think, was coming out of South Africa. Yeah, so they discovered it in South Africa, the US, Canada, and Russia, and a couple other countries. So obviously what they're going to do is they're going to use this to lock down everything else. Matter of fact, I was like, the world-ending strain of the Rona, the new one, or as I'd like to call it, how we plan on screwing the world and stealing elections for the next 12 months. Kind of funny how most of Congress is out on break right now. This story breaks. By the time Congress comes back into session, like in the middle of January, half of them are going to start working towards their re-election campaigns. Do you think they're going to use this as a weapon to lock people down and to justify more mail-in balloting and corruptible election results? You decide. Anyway, enjoy your new lockdowns. But, does this mean I get another stimmy? I mean, you screwed us out of like the last 3 or 4 of them because, no kids, own my own house, still have to work every day, still have to pay tolls even though I'm an essential employee, right? Like, where's my next stimmy? I know I'm not supposed to take it because I don't need it, but you know what? I could offset my Christmas shopping with it. That'd be cool. Anyway. These are going to go very quickly, by the way. This is a condensed show because it's just me. I don't have a round robin of panelists to go through, but yeah, meet Omicron. It's apparently the scourge of the earth. We're all going to die. They're going to lock us down. Meanwhile, our president is eating turkey in a billionaire's $30 million estate in Nantucket Island, saying, oh, nothing costs more, because he gets to hop in a free ride to a billionaire's place that isn't even a government official. Like, what's up with that, right? Anyway, that's that. The stock market's going to take a hit. People are going to go crazy. They're going to get locked down. It is what it is. Just get on top of the thermonuclear warhead and Just feel the power between your legs, brother, because we're all going along for a ride, right? Anyway, next story. A little more cheerful. Promise. Gun owners of America have been very vocal about celebrating the verdict of the Rittenhouse case. And rightfully so, because that victory is, if you're a 2A minded person, that victory is for all of us. We touched on this last Saturday, but the Rittenhouse case, had it gone the other way, would have been terrible for Second Amendment rights, because the media had already spun a web of lies about how he got the gun and what gun he used and why he used it and why he crossed state lines. You all heard it before. You don't need me to recap that. But it was all debunked. And now some of the more larger media outlets with their hand caught in the cookie jar had decided, ooh, we better retract this, otherwise he's going to come after us for defamation. Trust me, he's coming after you for defamation regardless. So, yeah, had it been a guilty verdict, the anti-gun movement would have gone nuts about it. The rules of self-defense and the justifiable use of deadly force, as taught by Massad Ayoob at Lethal Force Institute, that it probably would have changed dramatically. Like, the interpretation of the law would have changed dramatically. Thankfully, the jury saw the overwhelming video evidence and concluded unanimously that no, this guy's innocent. He was running away every time and he got overtaken and he had to defend his life. The question could be, why'd you go? But he had every right to be there as much as the looters. They're not protesters if they're destroying things. That's looting. That's criminal. That's animal behavior. Anyway, so the GOA decided to send Rittenhouse a Thanksgiving gift in the form of 20,000 comments of encouragement about his victory legally, which is amazing, right? So here's the story here. And it's just, they forwarded all these messages in batches because it's a lot to take in. The kid's life will never be the same. He's going to have to reinvent himself, basically. Even his defense attorney was like, he should probably change his name and go somewhere far away, lay low for a while, and then try to go on with his life. He still says he wants to be a nurse, a male nurse, medical, And that's fine. Like, if that's really your passion, go for it. It's going to be a lot harder now that people are going to recognize your face and your name. But not to be outdone, this is like the highlights of the things that we have actually accomplished this year, which is quite good. I mean, the avalanche of states that have adopted constitutional carry is unstoppable now. Most people get it now. That you are ultimately responsible for your own well-being and your safety and security. The police, they come to clean up the mess and to report what they found. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. That's a cliche, but it's a very true one. And I'm happy to say that, yes, we did have 5 states enable constitutional carry. My state being the last one so far this year, number 21. Texas, constitutional carry, took effect September 1st. Carried every single day since. None of my guns have jumped out and hurt anybody. Most of the time, people don't even know I'm carrying it. I sit in front of my table right now with you guys here, and I'm sitting in front of 11 different carry pistol options because I mix and match them like people check their dress watches before they walk out the door, because I can. Now, before this and that was passed, Yes, I did have a CHL. A couple years ago, some of you know the story. I let it lapse because I was trying to get a friend to go get his, and I told him, "Misery loves company. I'll go do the course with you." And then he flaked. So I never renewed because I knew that this bill was trying to be passed for years, and it finally got through in Texas. So it's nice to be able to carry again without impunity, with no fear of judgmental people getting up, on your case about it. And now the weather's gotten cool and I get to wear my new ultra slick, Versacarry shoulder rig. So that's always nice. And, I've got it cinched up in such a way that even a zip up hoodie covers me completely. I went grocery shopping yesterday for like half an hour. Nobody even knew I was carrying. Anyway, it's cool. So there's this little shop in New Hampshire, and I asked Scott about this, and he was like, "Yeah, they're tiny. That's a small place, right?" It's called RTD Arms, and they decided that they were going to gift Rittenhouse a unique version of their KR-15 rifle, and his has the unique serial number of Not Guilty 00001, which is hilarious. They're sort of following the same playbook as like Palmetto State Armory, making all their unique engraved lowers. It's all the same lower, it's just the engravings are different. The serial numbers are sitting there kind of as a joke. Either way, he's getting one of those, and Midwest Industries decided to chip in as well, and they're sending in a new handguard, new backup sights. Little company called Negrini out of Arkansas is donating the like a carry case. So, he'll be able to build this pretty much any way he wants, and he could still uh, defend his life and liberties with it, which is cool. It's like it's a trophy rifle basically, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I build themed ARs all the time. Like, for instance, my 50 Beowulf, it's a 12.5-inch pistol, and I used a Spikes Tactical color-filled snowflake lower. It's got a unicorn with a rainbow on it. And then, just for fun, I had put in anodized small parts, like the takedown pins and like the anti-walk pin kit, just so I can have this little splash of color on the side. Charging handle, um, the safety lever, the mag release button, little small parts. And they all add up when you put them all together. Like, I built that. I've got this, I think it's a Midwest Industries 11.5-inch upper pistol that I built. It's like Black and Coyote two-tone. And that's on a Spikes pineapple grenade color filled lower. And I've been debating on if I want to put like yellow or gold anodized small parts on that one, because the pineapple's bright yellow on the receiver, so it looks kind of nice. So I'm kind of waffling on that a bit. I built this one I called the Dookie Pistol. It's a 7.5-inch AR pistol with the Strike Industries oppressor brake on it, and I think it's called an Aimpoint T2 red dot. I'm not too versed in aim points, to be honest, but it looked right on there. And that one's all FDE'd out. It's tiny. It's got the what do they call that? The SBPDW brace. Pretty slick, actually. Really heavy, though. I mean, that thing is tiny, but it still weighs like 10 pounds. My answer to that is just work out more. I know ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain, and having to carry around a 10-pound pistol all day is going to grate on you, but I don't have to hump 10 miles a day in it, so it's no big deal. It's just something I wanted for fun. Anyway, so Kyle gets this rifle, and the GOA gets their notoriety and credibility. They get to take a victory lap. Everybody gets to take a victory lap in this. The only person who doesn't is Gage Grosskreutz, you capitalistic piece of shit, trying to make $10 million off the city of Kenosha after you destroyed your own case for the prosecutor. Good job, bro. Anyway, Moving right along. Let's see. Yes. I remember this story when it happened. Uh, you guys remember the name? I think it's John Lee Malvo. I think that was his name. There was two people, but this was back in the day of the DC sniper case, and the police chief of Maryland, who headed up the search for the DC sniper, I believe his name was Charles Moose, and the gag at the time, which motivated law enforcement, was the moose is loose, and he was, and you all know the ending. They got him. They got the guy, right? So, yeah. So Charles Moose, the former police chief of Maryland, he's died, and he reached the tender age of 68, and I was actually kind of surprised. You know, I have this celebrity death pool here on the Discord, and anytime I see anybody of notoriety, names in history and whatnot, they instantly go in there. And one of these days, I will explain the rules of the celebrity death pool for the audience, and if you guys would like to join in, then I will add your names to the list. I would prefer that you join the server, that way I can keep everything in one channel for you to all watch. But when I started the celebrity death pool, it's actually a rip-off of something my local radio station started probably 20-something years ago. And basically what I decided is I was going to throw money at a contest where we would make a celebrity death pool. You would pick 10 names plus a honorable mention or alternative person that you can swap out in case that alternative person had died. And you can throw out one of the ones that didn't at the end. And, you know, the winner would receive a prize and I would send it to them. I'll explain the rules of the death pool later, though. We'll do it in January because you'll have to make a new list. Matter of fact, I think for the Christmas special that I plan on doing, I'll explain the rules then, because this year what I did was I started it on January 1st. I gave everybody who participated, I think it was a week, to come up with a list, and then I added them to the database, and then by the first week, January 8th, that's when the pool started. This year I'm going to start it. You have between Christmas to New Year's to make your list, and then it starts January 1st. Just in case if someone passes on January 1st, you don't get credit unless your list is already in and ready to go. So we'll do that. But anyway, the man responsible for finding the DC snipers passed, and far too soon, to be honest. 68's a pretty early age to go, so it's Lee Boyd Malvo. That was the kid. John Allen Muhammad was the shooter. That's what it was. So anyway, that's our guy right there. I remember that was big news. They even made like made-for-TV movies. That guy had the square body Caprice with the composite headlights, and he had like this flip door where the gas filler neck would go, and he had like a porthole cut into it, and he would lay inside and wait. I mean, the guy was a monster. He was a highly intelligent one for even coming up with that crazy idea. So anyway, let's move right along. I got one more story for you. And the way I wrote this one is, I'll go ahead and put the picture up for you. NATO, quote, warns Russia about its upcoming winter holiday to the Ukraine. So, for those of you who don't know, on the border between Ukraine and Russia, there's about 90, I heard it was more than this, but this is a later or an updated story. So we'll just go with this for now. 90,000 troops have been massed near the border with the Ukraine. And they're saying that they're just leftovers from war games that were conducted earlier, but let's be honest, when war games are over, everyone packs their crap and go home. They didn't do that. Everybody knows that Russia wants to take back the Ukraine. It's not the worst kept secret in geopolitics on that side of the world. Well, until the next part, which I'll get to in a second. So, the NATO forces NATO is warning Russia to not go in there. Well, what the hell are you going to do about it? Like, what is NATO honestly going to do against Russia? Because, yeah, we're still in NATO, but, you know, our last president said that we're not going to foot the bill anymore. We foot the bill in billions of dollars. We foot the bill in hundreds of, maybe tens of thousands of lives. These guys have NATO nations that send in 10 people. Not cool. They're not going to do shit, honestly. If the Russians are determined to take over the Ukraine, NATO's not going to stop them. No way. No way. NATO's had its balls chopped off. And honestly, Russians will probably know what to do against NATO anyway. I mean, look at the guy who runs the country. The guy's brilliant. He really is. If that guy was an American and he spoke English, you would want him for President of the United States. Almost without a doubt. Anyway. The reason I brought this story up was because I had read another one weeks prior, and it was about China wanting to take over Taiwan. There are bets being placed right now that China will hold off until after the Winter Olympics in is it Beijing this year? I think it's Beijing. The Winter Olympics are being held in China. They're going to put on a smiling face and show the world how technologically brilliant they are, just like they did in their Summer Olympics with their crazy bird's nest soccer stadium and all that stuff, without telling you how many bones of people that the foundations of these places are built on. But the theory is that they will hold out, put on a huge public spectacle of how great China is for the Winter Olympics. And as soon as it's over and everyone goes home happy with their medal counts and all this other stuff, they're going to go right after Taiwan. Now, I've not really delved into the history of this too much, but I was told Taiwan is 2 major islands, and supposedly parts of both islands are within artillery range of the Chinese mainland. If that's the case, it won't take them long to start messing with Taiwan, right? They already started messing with everybody on the seas in between the two countries. It's like all of a sudden when somebody wants to pass through, China's like, "What are you doing? What are you here for? Why are you here? Go away." And you kind of sit there and scratch your head going, "It's international waters. It's none of your business." But then again, we had that, was it a Seawolf class submarine? I think it was. That, by all accounts, we thought, most of us who saw the pictures, the satellite photos and whatnot, had probably collided with a seamount, a mountain under the water. But upon further investigation, like I watch a guy, his new username is Subbrief. Old username was Jive Turkey. But everyone got the photos wrong. And a couple of days later, they're like, "Oh my God, no, there was a substantial amount of damage to the front of that boat." But they made it to dock in Guam, and I think they're going to dry dock it and move it to Pearl to fix it. But they still haven't said what they hit. Now, generally, if there's a sub-on-sub collision, both countries kind of hush-hush and don't say anything. It's an embarrassment. You know, like, nobody wants to admit to it. So far, nobody's admitted to anything with this. China says, "Nope, they didn't hit us." Russia's like, "Nope, they didn't hit us." And we said, "Nope, we didn't hit anything." Tell you what, though, somebody on that crew knows what they hit. They have to know. They had to have known. Because they were on pins and needles trying to get that thing back to Guam without sinking. Because it didn't breach the internal hull. But still, it's still got to be scary. Either way. We're probably going to end up with... I don't like to be a warmonger and start preaching about World War III and the end of the world and all this crap, but history has proven that world wars start by a small event in a, essentially a flyover country. And then what that event does is gives the rest of the world an excuse to take sides and draw battle lines, right? So if we look at the kickoff to World War One, there was geopolitical tension all over Europe. There was countries wanting to take over more territory and redraw the map, redraw the borders of their map, right? And it all started with a assassination in Yugoslavia, right? And then that gave everyone an excuse to go to war. World War Two. Um, the kickoff to World War Two. Is it Germany's push into Poland? Is that what really kicked it off? I don't know. Sorry. I thought that was a smaller thing than it is, but it's not. But still, the point is it's not going to be that Russia declares war on China or something like. It's not going to be two juggernauts going after it, right? It's going to be something like China attacks Taiwan and then everyone picks sides, or Russia picks on the Ukraine, even though the Ukraine is not a NATO affiliate country, and that'll make people pick sides. Or I had a theory last year that Saudi Arabia attacking Yemen would have been the catalyst, or the Iranians sinking a tanker ship in the Suez Canal. Stuff like that, right? Things that you don't expect to happen, and that gives the excuse. And I can't shake this feeling, and I'm sure most of you probably feel the same way, but I can't shake this feeling that that's exactly what's about to happen. And, for me, it's like, where's my power armor? By the time the T-45 power armor comes out, I will be 66 years old. So I can't have it. I'm too old to wear it unless I can have my Bicentennial Man body or my Ghost in the Shell body. But then if I had the Ghost in the Shell body, I wouldn't need power armor, would I? You see my point? Anyway. Alright, enough of doom and gloom. I have one more topic I want to talk about. I don't have a story to put up on the screen, though. And what it is it's about Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and the upcoming Cyber Monday. And, this was going to be a panel discussion, but I have no panel. But I thought, deals for 2A-minded people. Most of you are 2A-minded people, so what do you get other 2A-minded people from between the two of you? What do you get them? And what if you are the sibling or the spouse or the children of, and you just coincidentally catch this video, what do you get somebody who is a gun owner if you want to buy them something for one of these 3 retail holidays, so to speak, right? Well, I came up with this real short list, and I thought I would share it. And basically what it is gun people know what guns they want and what they have. And there are certain things that they may modify their gun with that only they know they want. So, like, for instance, say you know somebody with a standard 20-inch barrel AR-15, like, or even a 16-inch, like an M&P Sport, like a Rittenhouse type gun, right? These things are like customizing your car, right? It's your canvas for personal expression. You want to put certain optics on it, certain accessories, maybe paint it a certain way or Cerakote it, certain grips, certain butt stocks, just take your pick, right? So, using an AR-15 as an example, what do you get them? Because let's say they've got an ALG trigger in their AR. Are you going to buy them a drop-in trigger? Well, they already got an ALG. They might happily take it, or they might say, well, I already got a good one, I don't need this. Now, realistically, somebody who gets a drop-in trigger as a gift will probably just save it for the next build if they want. But like certain things like optics, you know, you would have to know how they use their weapon, how they train with their weapon, how they carry it, and what their preferences are. So, for instance, if you have a person who is into ACOGs, Trigicon ACOGs, and then you turn around and you buy them a Tasco red dot, they're never going to use it. They're going to be like, no, I got this one. Why do I want this? Right? So it's like, you got to buy people things that they're actually going to use when it comes to things like gun parts. The only thing I could come up with a couple years ago, I bought something for a fellow member here, and she is obsessed with the color purple. So her and her husband built her an AR pistol, and it had little purple bits here and there, and I thought, oh well, I can't get her any of those because I have a source for like anodized small parts, and so I was like, well, I want to get her something, and right before Christmas, lo and behold, uh, purple translucent Lancer magazines came out, so I bought her a couple of those and sent it. She loved it because she had regular magazines. She didn't have any purple magazines, so it worked out really good. But, stuff like that, right? You can maybe get somebody a weapon light, or if you know that they like certain colors, you can get them, like, say, for instance, say they got like a Magpul grip, and they're really into colors, and they just have their rifle came with a basic black one, like an MOE grip or something. Get them the purple one, right? Something like that. Maybe because of the shortages and such, maybe you want to start getting your friends into hand loading. Now, when I first bought my very first Lee bench plate kit and breech lock reloading kit, they were more than twice what I paid for it. You can literally get that kit now for, I think, $149, which is great. So maybe you want to get them one of those, get them started, right? Put them down the path. And you can even explain to them, hey, it's cheaper to shoot in the end because your reloading costs per round are far less than buying retail commercial ammo. And then there's that whole debate on, do you hand load your own self-defense ammo? I do, because in all honesty, you have just as much chance of a failure to fire with a hand load as you do with a commercial round. The only difference is you know exactly what powder was in there, how much of it you used, and what primers you used. And chances are, because it's self-defense ammo, you're not going to screw around. You're going to put the good stuff in. So like, for instance, I do spear gold dots, and I use CCI primers on usually new Starline brass, or Starline's nickel-coated brass. Depends. But yeah, I make my own. Maybe you might want to get them some of those. Or maybe you somehow manage to find a really good deal on primers and you send them a brick of primers, which once upon a time was $35 to $40. But during the shortage, I've seen them go for as high as $250 to $400. Insane. Maybe you'll send them a brick of primers. Or maybe you know that person is going to buy a particular firearm. Or maybe that person's wife or husband is going to buy their partner a rifle. Maybe buy them the reloading dice set for that caliber. Maybe they're already a reloader, Stuff like that. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's the thought that counts, right? What about training? What about getting them a training course where they go and learn from somebody else? That's invaluable. It doesn't have to be weapons training. It could be basic paramedics training. It could be basic survival training, basic ham radio operation, whatever. Those are invaluable. I'm giving you the gift of an education. It's like teaching a man to fish instead of just giving him the fish, right? It's brilliant. How about training at home? So I follow several people, actually, now that I think about it, but I follow like Ghost Tactical and Obnoxious One, and just there's several guys that I watch, And they all have started passing around this Mantis Blackbeard dry fire kit. And it's pretty neat. I gotta admit, I like it. I'll probably get one. And I'll probably do a gear review on it too. However, I've always had a beef with dry fire practice in terms of the kind that pops a laser and shows you where you hit the target. Because you never get... You can get trigger pull muscle memory, sure. But you'll never get the recoil muscle memory, which will definitely make your follow-up shot different than the dry fire training. So that's kind of something to consider as well. I like the idea of it. It's just I also like the realism of feeling the recoil, which is why I spend a lot of time at the range. And what I typically do is if I develop a bad habit at the range, I will stop going for a while, sometimes for months, because what ends up happening is the next time I go back, the fundamentals are still there, but all my bad habits that I picked up going too often sort of are forgotten, and then I end up kind of going back to the fundamentals. So I'm always surprised. Usually if I go too often, I start to pick up a couple of bad habits here and there. If I wait and go back, the first magazine is always a little bit everywhere because I'm not used to the report of the guns anymore around me, and I might flinch once or twice because the guy in the lane next to me fires just before I was about to pull the trigger, things like that. But I usually settle down real quick. Like usually within about 10 minutes, I'm thinking, nope, we're all here for the same reason, it's all fine. That's when my groups start getting really good. So maybe... Now that's not a bad plan. You know what would be a great Christmas gift if it's not too expensive? Range memberships. Some of them are quite pricey, but maybe range membership wouldn't be so bad. Like, say for instance you have a husband and wife and they're shooters. I'll use like Tar Dot and Gunpowder Beauty as an example. They could buy one membership and be allowed to take one guest every time for free. So you don't technically have to buy them 2 memberships. You just take the membership of the person who goes the often, or the most, out of the 2, and then bring the other one along every time. You can do that too. Good bargain, right? Anyway. Yeah. If you're going to do 2A-minded, retail holiday shopping, just be mindful of the person you're getting it for, what they need, what they have, and what their tastes are. And there are certain things that probably aren't a good idea. Like, I got this guy a new bolt for his AR. Well, what if he's already got a really good one? Stuff like that. You have to be cognizant of the things that they have. But there are still plenty of good things to get somebody. Maybe new ear pro, maybe new eye pro, maybe, I don't know, a stack of targets. Paper targets, that is. Or maybe, like in Tony's case, for instance, I talked about this with him yesterday, but what would be great is, imagine... Since he's on acreage, he could build himself the new Hickok 45 type range. And I was like, oh, perfect housewarming gift. If you guys know Tony York on Gun Channels and here and at the Early Watch, maybe if you want to buy him something for Christmas, start sending him steel targets. Stands and steel targets. I'm sure he'll thank you for it. I'm sure he'll be ever grateful. Anyway, I think I've wasted enough of your time. I didn't think I was going to even make it this far flying solo. I'm not sure if I'm going to record anything today. I'm going to try to for Penny Arcades, and I still have to do tomorrow's Kicking It Old School. So if you are into that retro series, maybe that's what I'll do. I haven't decided yet. Honestly, I haven't decided what I'm going to do for the rest of my weekend. I still have to wait for the new missus, to tell me what we're doing this weekend if we are. Yeah, I walked into that cage. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start playing this. And I'm going to thank you all for taking the time to watch essentially a pre-recorded version of the Week in Review. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, maybe check out my other playlist to see if my other interests may be of interest to you. Also, if you'd like to join my panel or this server, check the link in the description below, and I'll gladly send you an email.
with an invite code, and you can join me and everyone else here at any time. If you want to host your own show, hit me up. I'll show you how to do it. You can even do it here. That's why there's an Early Watch stream channel. That's why I have the Penny Arcade stream channel. Either way, thanks for watching, guys. I know it was a little different format, but it's still the same material. We'll see you guys next week. Later.